I have been racing on ZWIFT for close to 2 years now, and in that time I've had some good results, some bad results, but I've never actually won a race. I was very close for a few times, I've had some second places, and once the guy in front of me got disqualified, so I technically won. But I've never actually seen myself going through the banner as the first rider, and it has not been just bad luck. Part of it goes to my selection of races, and even some of you guys noticed that. Under my recent FTP video, Black Flame Solutions wrote the following: if you are a strongly anaerobic rider with FTP somewhere above 3.5 watts per kilo, you are really not that far from A. You just seem to do races that don't work for you. And you know what? He's completely right. I'm very strong at flat races, but in the last few months I almost haven't done any. In January it was Tour de ZWIFT, which was very hilly, then the ZWIFT Games, also very hilly, and just recently I have done the Sisu Pinky Grand Tour. By the way, I will make a video about that experience, and it was also extremely difficult. So despite my strengths, I've been mostly doing climbing races, and my results reflect that. Black Flame Solutions wrote the following: I'm usually watching you losing the front on a climb. If you are non-aerobic type, at 76 kilos, anything with a climb is going to be utterly miserable for you. And once again, he's right. If I am racing with guys close to my racing score and I hit any climb that's more than just a minute or two, it's basically done deal for me. And he offered a solution too. Why don't you try some flat crit races? The flatter, the better, or something like Glasgow or Dolphin City. And guess what? That's exactly what I have done just recently. I've already done the first race of the June Z Racing series, and that was, you guessed it, on Glasgow Crit. So let's take a look at if I can finally break this curse. So today we are doing 6 kilometers on the Glasgow Crit. This course is a little over 3 kilometers long and has 2 difficult spots. Or to be more specific, it is more like one difficult spot that is split into parts. The first part is the Clyde Kicker, a very short climb but extremely treacherous one. The group always does an insane effort here, and we are talking 6, 7, 8 or even more watts per kilo, and there's a descent following it right away, which means that if you lose the touch with the group, they can get away on the descent and it is going to be extremely difficult for you to get back. And the second tricky part is the one following just that, the straight part of the road with the rollers. For some reason the group always punches forward, and especially since they carry speed from the descent, it gets very spicy. And that's just it. The rest of the course is basically just an opportunity to rest and recover in between the efforts. At least that has been my experience on this course so far. So my sole intention in this race was to focus on the Clyde Kicker. There is simply no other way to survive this course at the front, but thankfully that's exactly where are my strengths. I have simply no problem to punch very high watts for 20 seconds or so. As I was expecting going into this race, the first half, which means the first 3 laps of this course, were actually super easy. That has been my experience doing this course basically every time I have done it. And it is kind of dangerous because it can lead you to a false sense of security. But what usually happens next is the group actually increases the effort in the second half, and then it can get super painful actually. Especially if you overreach their abilities in the first half. So this was the third Clyde Kicker of the day, and I actually felt so good that I actually pushed past that climb on the descent, and I wanted to really increase the effort of the group, but on this course there is not a big chance for a breakaway, so the group got really quickly back together. Fourth lap and my heart rate is still very well under my control. I'm doing around 150 BPM, which is super light effort for me. In terms of racing at least. Obviously that changes on each climb, but overall I would say that the pace of the group wasn't anything crazy. There weren't many breakaway attempts or anything like that, which I was pretty grateful for, because the longer this group would stay compact, the better chance I would have. Because let's be honest, my biggest playing card is the final 300 meters of each race. So I was happily riding along in the pace that was set, always making sure to push really hard when the Clyde kicker came, and then staying with the group on the rollers. And we are now approaching the final banner in the 5th lap, which would mean that we would have the last lap in front of us. And as we were crossing the banner, I started preparing for multiple scenarios that could develop in this race. Obviously, the most favorable one to me would be if the group stayed together until the finishing sprint, in which case I would simply ride the wheel of the riders in front of me and then outkick them with my sprint, which I would dare to say is better than for the most riders in this category. The second possibility would be an attack somewhere around here. That is actually something I've already experienced multiple times. Usually as people cross the lap banner for the final time, they actually take it as an impulse to really start racing. And this is usually the place where they start, because there is a series of uphills in front of us, and especially for the lighter riders, it is an opportunity to really split from the group. But nothing like that was actually happening over here, so I thought that maybe the next opportunity for an attack would be the Clyde kicker. Once again, I expected some of the lighter riders to do it, because obviously they cannot compete in the sprint, but if they were able to break from the group, and especially if there were more than just one riders like that, they could have a good opportunity to actually ride away to the finish line. And I didn't want to leave this to chance. The problem with Clyde kicker is that if you notice that someone is attacking, it is usually very late to respond. So I wanted to approach this climb proactively and basically punch it no matter what was happening around me. So as you will be able to see in a very short while, I actually punched over 10 watts per kilos, which was actually a good decision because there were more riders that actually chose the same strategy. And especially in this lap, it is very important to cross the banner in the bunch with other riders, which you can see that actually didn't really happen. There was this guy in front of us on the Tron bike that actually managed to break away from the group. A very nice move, but unfortunately for him, he was alone. But then again, it is 1.4 kilometers until the finish line, so who knows, maybe he will be able to keep up. We'll just need to wait and see. But it is a nice demonstration about how treacherous the Clyde kicker really is, because we were doing all about 10 watts per kilo, and even then one guy could break away from us. And even though we are chasing in a bunch, he is still able to maintain the distance to us. So it is going to be very adrenaline-filled finish to what was actually pretty calm race. You can actually see most of the guys pop their power-up, which was actually very good for the chase, but not a great move for them in terms of their chances in the finishing sprint. The featherweight wouldn't probably make a significant difference, but the aero power-ups are super important for the sprint. And the guy in front of us still got distance, 700 meters to go. And I didn't want to chase him because I didn't want to act as a lead-out train for the others. But 600 meters before the finish line, it finally looks like we might be closing down the gap. The effort is increasing significantly, and it will go down to my discipline of choice. Even though that the guy in front has an advantage still, he spent a lot of time alone in the front, and I expect that would cost him some energy. So I'm right now behind about 5 riders, and I can see others starting to sprint, so I'm popping my aero boost and punching my effort over 1000 watts, 13 watts per kilo. I cannot sprint standing anymore, so I'm sitting down, and it's finally here, guys. For the first time in my life, I was able to win a Zwift race. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.